So once again, an official hello from me, Gary Robinson, your host for the series of ACE Aware Nation Conversations, a very special episode of the conversation tonight because we are celebrating the life and work of Tina Hendry. And I know for a fact that lots of people who are joining us from around Scotland, from around the UK and from around the globe knew Tina very well. And there's some people who will know of the legend of Tina, and we'll talk about that in some detail in just a moment or two. But Tina, as you may know, was an absolute leading light in the development of ACE Aware Nation and instrumental as well in delivering the James Redford film Resilience to the Scottish nation in 2017 and actually beyond, because it was the interest in the film Resilience was massive here in Scotland, and then spawned more interest in the film in Canada, USA, Australia and New Zealand and beyond. And it was a really interesting tour, if you like, because it started with no money, no cash, started out as a germ of an idea, and suddenly ballooned into having an audience of 2,500 people in 25 communities across Scotland. It was phenomenal. And when I do an awful lot of interviews around being ACE aware, particularly in Scotland, the film Resilience is invariably mentioned. It's amazing and it's wonderful the impact that it had. But we'll find out a little bit more about the impact and about Tina's role in that. As we know, Tina sadly passed away from cancer, age 52, a year ago, and I believe today was the anniversary of her funeral. So a poignant time to have this celebration of Tina's life. Karyn McCluskey, as many of you know, is the Chief Executive of Community Justice Scotland. Jade Kilkenny, a very dear friend of Tina, is joining us as well. And Stuart Robertson, who was a volunteer member of Tina's team at ReAttachment, joins us to share some memories today. Jade, if I could start with you, good evening, and thank you for joining me and the audience. Tina had a massive impact on your life, I understand. Could you tell me a little bit more as to how that happened and how the relationship with Tina came about?
Hi, Gary. Yeah, thanks for having me. I feel so honoured to be here today. Yeah, so basically I met Tina. I went with Sheila Gordon, that used to be one of the old chief executives for the Social Working Council. And we went to like one of her events, one of the very first ones in Glasgow. And I met her through that, the Resilience film. And basically I just thought she was amazing. The way that she ran the whole show, and she made sure everybody had what they needed. And I just felt this urge to like want to go and meet her. And then basically I made sure that she knew my name. And then basically like I was speaking to Lorraine Tuckneri, which is one of my, like, she's just one of the relationships I have with someone. And I was talking to Lorraine, and Lorraine was saying, oh, I know Tina, and I talked to Tina quite a lot. And and basically Lorraine and Tina spoke about me, and Tina heard that I wanted to meet her, and then basically it just started from there. And and then she just took me under her wing, and she just like took me on as her own basically, and I just felt so like amazed, like to like, I don't know, like the love that she gave me, even though she didn't know me. Do you know what I mean? Like she never knew me, and she just like took me under her wing, even though she didn't know anything about me. She didn't know any of my past, because I'm care experienced, and I have quite a lot of trauma and things like that. And basically she just supported me, and she was just there for me. And basically she got me into public speaking, and because like she was doing public speaking, and she got me into that through what she was doing. And like back then, before I met Tina, I was a totally different person. I didn't have any confidence in myself. I had no self-esteem. I didn't even know who I was as a person. I didn't know what I wanted to be or anything like that. And she just made me realise like what I could achieve, and what I was capable of. Like, do you know what I mean? She made me realise like me as a person, like I am important. I am important to people, and people do love me. and that's what she made me realise about myself. And basically she got me more into public speaking, and she just showed me how to do it. And basically, like, she would keep asking me, like, do you want to do more? And then she actually taught me a lot about my trauma as well, so like how to deal with it, and how to manage it and things like that. And that's the thing that I really appreciated.
You used a really impactful word there for me, Jade, and the word was love.
Hmm.
Which, it's amazing for anybody to give and receive. Was that almost automatic when you met Tina,
Yeah.
or was that feeling built up over a number of months and years when you were, working alongside her?
Well, I loved Tina from the very first day I met her, but like started to love her as a person as I got to know her. And basically, like when she was there for me, I think she just seen me as a vulnerable wee lassie that just needed people to be there for her. And that's what she did. She didn't see me as, like, people always look at, I think people always look at me and go, my God, she's so broken because she has all this trauma, and she's, have to do like quite a lot on her own and stuff like that. And and Tina didn't look at me like that. Tina looked at me in a different way that showed me that, I could achieve things and that I was capable of doing that. I
And
didn't
now,
see Tina that often, but I didn't see Tina that often, but when I did see her, like, it was a very, like, cherishable moment. Do you know what I mean?
absolutely. And you're at university now. You're doing some great things, aren't you?
Yeah. So I'm at university doing community education, and she was the one to actually, like, guide me into that kind of. She was one of the people to actually guide me into that kind of path, because I wanted to do social work initially, and she made me realise that there's more to professionalism than what you realise. It's about relationships, and that's what she taught me. Like, when I looked at Tina, I seen a professional, but as time went on, I was like, no, she's more than that. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's my friend, and I can call her that because I knew that she loved me. And like Karyn and what do you call it? Tina used to talk quite a lot about me because I got a job with Karyn, and obviously I was bossing Karyn about and stuff. And what do you call it? And basically, like, as time went on, like, Tina didn't need to be there for me as much as what she needed to, because I went on to this job that, that Tina helped me to get. Do you know what I mean? Like, being with Tina opened opportunities for me. You know what I mean? Like, it provided things that I never had before. So yeah, she just had a big, huge, massive impact in my life, and she made me realise who I was, and that I didn't need to be this broken little girl anymore. Do you know what I mean? And I
Well,
just,
I've got to say,
yeah,
Jade, I can see and I can hear the confidence in you. Although this is the first time that we've met, but I can absolutely see the impact that Tina has had on your life. I'm going to come back to you shortly, if I may, Jade.
yeah, that's fine.
Stuart, if I could turn to you, you were a colleague of Tina's, but also worked with her in the organisation ReAttachment. The memories that Jade has of Tina, do they ring true for you as well?
They do indeed. There's so many people who have that kind of experience through it. Particularly for me is the people within ReAttachment who volunteered. And what happened is when it was rolled out, we started picking up volunteers to actually come and help present and learn. And a lot of them had the same kind of story as Jade. So she took them on this journey, and they all talk about the first meeting with Tina and how it changed their lives there and then. And that immediate rapport Tina could have with people and make them feel special. And from that point, make them believe in themselves. And if they wish to come on the journey with Tina to then present and take that, the journey of presenting all these films around Scotland, it was quite an amazing skill she had. Yeah.
And Karyn, clearly a loving lady with a lot of love to give, but I got the feeling that you wouldn't really cross Tina.
Oh, she was hysterical. She was short. Her beehive made her twice as high as, her actual height. And when she put on her body armor, because obviously I knew her in the police, as well. She was big, but she was formidable, but in the best of ways. When I use the word Übermensch, that was Tina through and through. And it's such a strange thing. I fired up an old phone before I came on because I broke my phone last year, and I had all the messages that I'd sent to Tina, and I'd forgotten how many times I'd reached out for her help over the years. And it's really bittersweet thinking back, because there's so many times I come across her phone number still and want to reach out to her again, because she was formidable. She used to give me a row all the time. I think that's how Jade's got that. Jade was the bossiest apprentice I've ever had. She used to say to me, "You can do so much better, just not good enough. You need to try harder, Karyn." And I can hear Tina in that, that sort of, you need to up your game, So she was pretty special.
Was Tina like that with lots of people that she met in her life?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think she was never any different. Whether it was your chief constable or the person that she met on the street or the person that, she was just always the same. She had no airs or graces. She just was plain speaking. But the thing that I really liked her was she saw things as people were and not as she was. Do you know what I mean? She appreciated the circumstances they found themselves in. And she does this, she did the thing that John Carnican and I always talk about. She brought her whole self to work. So it wasn't just professionalism, it was her whole self. It was her compassion and her empathy and her love. And we never talk about love, really, do we? And particularly in policing, as Stuart and I know. But she did that and never wavered.
Stuart, we also lost James Redford last year to cancer. As we know, Resilience was his film. You were part of the team that took the film to Scotland. Tell me about some of the challenges in 2017 that there were in rolling out that film.
I think first of all was having the confidence to ask James to come across and present it. I know Tina always comes across as such a formidable and confident person, but before that, in the build up to that, we had that kind of worry that firstly nobody will come, and then how will it go? And I hadn't actually seen Tina present anything before that time. And of course, we turned up that morning as helping, and instantly Tina went into mode of directing us and telling us exactly what we had to do. So obviously we did exactly what we had to do. But the moment that she stepped into that arena, she became Tina, that person that just, as Karyn says, had no airs and graces, and every day was at the same level, whether that be bringing people up to her level or her raising up to the level we thought of other people. And it made a really nice day that day in the Grosvenor, that there was no airs and graces. She actually stood there and told it as exactly it was, and actually challenged people, which kind of shocked me in a part. And one of the, as we talked about, Tina didn't like having photographs taken. So my favourite photograph is after that, when she has it with Jamie herself, and you can actually see a wee bit of relief, I think, but you actually see that power in her that says, yes, this is going to happen. From there, we moved on to, well, where are we going to do this? So we actually started looking through the internet and saw where different community centres were, because that's where we wanted to do it. She was very much about that. It wasn't about doing big establishments. It was actually going to the people and doing it, and then phoning round. And then for them, there had to be a business reason for them accepting us. But at the same time, it was getting a crowd that would then engage with us. And in certain, it worked really well, because as the momentum grew, more and more people turned up. but there is the memory of her going into the canteen and community centres and trying to drag in the lollipop women as well, because she knew that everybody had to hear this message, therefore, and it wasn't just people in public service, it was the actual people on the ground that needed to get that message. And from there, it just grew and grew.
And was it a surprise that it had become so successful so quickly?
No, Tina was in charge. You just went with her. Tina said, this is going to happen, and we went, well, yeah, okay, Tina, let's do it. And honestly, her confidence in that this message needed to go out, and there was an audience there for it. And I think as well, the success that she had in presenting it, you knew fine well that in her, she was going to get the message across. People would fall in love with her and the message, and everybody would buy into it. And it went exactly as she saw it happening. It was fantastic.
Jade, I love the story that you started tonight's conversation off with. You know, the word that you used was love. There was very clearly a connection, a relationship there from day one. I'm really interested to find out a little bit more about your public speaking activities. Had you done anything like that prior to meeting Tina? And when you had your first sort of post-Tina talk, if you like, how did it feel? What was it about?
So I had done some things of public speaking before I met Tina. I did public speaking for new teachers and about how to treat care experienced young people in their class, but I hadn't done it to the extent of like different professionals and parents and things like that. So it was a totally different thing for me. It was a totally new thing for me. And when I met Tina for the first time, we spoke about, why I wanted to do public speaking. And she just, I told her that I wanted to have a different life. I wanted to achieve things in my life, and I wanted to be, somebody different. I didn't want to live the life that my family did. And she just kind of looked at me like with pride, as if like she had always knew me. And she was just like, you don't need to sell yourself to have a good life. That's, she was like, you're more than your experience. And that's what she said to me, and that's so true. And that's what I've learned over the years. So
sorry, Jade, how old were you at that point?
I was I was about 19, 20, 21.
Okay. And was this the first time that somebody had been so impactful on your life?
No, I've had so Lorraine's like used to be my LAC teacher at school, and after I left school, she just kept in contact after that, and just always kept like involving me in things and telling everybody about me and things like that. So when I have like this mini clan of people they're all professionals, but to me they're not professionals. They're my family that I've created. And when I met Tina, I decided that I wanted Tina to be a part of that clan. So I decided, I chose her basically. So when I seen her talking at the Glasgow event, I decided that I wanted to meet this woman, and I was telling everybody about her. I was going, oh my God, this woman, Tina, and, Tina this, Tina that. And then when I told Lorraine about her, she was like, I know Tina. And then that's how it came about. So it was kind of like, I was destined to meet her, because when I did eventually, get in contact with her, and we actually started going out and doing things together. We were the dream team basically, and I also met James Docherty through Tina as well. And then see, when I met James Docherty, like it was just, I don't know, it was just like the way it was supposed to be, I suppose.
James is a wonderful, impactful guy. He really is.
He's amazing
and very influential. I'm a big fan of James. From your point of view, Jade, how would you like to, because you're clearly on a path now, how would you like to continue the legacy of Tina's work from your point of view?
I want to build relationships with young people the way that she built relationships with me and other young people. Like, I want to be able to tell people, like, you're more than your experience. I don't want people to have to feel that they have to share their experience to make money. I want them to, go out and build a life outside being care experience. You know what I mean? I want to work with people with trauma the way that she did. I want to be able to tell people the things that she told me. You know what I mean? Like, so like when you walk into a room, you can feel the environment, whatever kind of room it is. And she always used to tell me that when there's less people, it's more impactful because they all enclose in together mentally. And I want to be able to share that with other people as well because, like, it's so true. And I want her to be remembered. And like when I do work with people, I'll tell everybody about her because I think she's just incredible and I'll never forget her. Do you know what I mean? I'll never forget the way she made me feel. I'll never forget what she did for me. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm a totally different person now.
I love that story, and I think many of our viewers tonight will absolutely agree with that. Jade, I'll come back to you again in just a moment. Karyn, when you hear Jade speaking about the impact that Tina has had, and actually Jade's own personal development, how does that make you feel?
Oh, she did it for so many people. I wish, obviously I've known Jade now. She stalks me all the time, Jade, and we're in close contact, But she was at the heart of so many people's transformation, She sees the potential in everybody. She saw the assets and know the deficits. And she walked the walk, She utterly believed it. She talked about her family, particularly to me all the time. And she was driven. Utterly driven around talking about the impact of trauma, trying to give everybody skills. I have conversations now about trauma in the justice system and about what's happened to people and their childhood experiences and how it interacts. And I know Tina was at the heart of that. So I'm still having conversations now and I still want to pick up the phone and say, guess what, what I heard today. And it's the same conversation we had. I hope she would be so proud. And I hope her family are so proud about what she's achieved because it's touched thousands of lives. Thousands. I'm having conversations now that would have been impossible, before, she started to do this work.
And we know there are members of Tina's family watching tonight, and we're honoured for that. And we've got a letter which they would like me to read, which I will be honoured to do fairly shortly. But I'm looking at my computer screen here, Karyn, at the obituary that you wrote for Tina back in February of last year. And it was wonderful. It's a wonderful piece, and I'm sure that most people watching this have seen it. But there is an example here. I thought I just want to. Yes, it's about. I'll read it if I may. So Tina Hendry was at the heart of so much change in our country, working to prevent attachment disruption for our children. One story illustrates the values that drove her and illustrates how far she would go to do the right thing. A man had phoned his rental agent on a Friday afternoon. The young woman who took the phone call was not in charge, but listened to him. The man said he was struggling and wanted to see if he could get some of his deposit back from his flat to see him through. The woman said she would ask her manager first thing on Monday, as she couldn't make that decision. The man rang off, saying, "I'd be better dead." The woman, worried, obviously, phoned the police. Tina and a fellow police officer were dispatched to the address. When they arrived, they found the man in a dreadful state, no gas or electricity, and no food in the house for 3 days. He had an injury that prevented him working and had no one to turn to. Realizing that he was in a desperate state, she and her partner put him in the car and took him to the ER. They knew, though, that the hospital wouldn't keep him in because he wasn't acutely ill. She persuaded a wonderful registrar to keep him in hospital overnight in warmth, company, and food. The man was overcome with emotion, crying and overwhelmed by the kindness of Tina, the police officer, and the NHS staff. No one could forget the image of these two officers in full body armour cuddling the man on the trolley as he went to the ward to be cared for. Tina Hendry, compassion in action. That is a wonderful example. The imagery that struck me, Karyn, in the piece that you wrote there was exactly that. Two officers in full body armour cuddling the man on the trolley as he went to the ward to be cared for. And I'm sure that you had many other stories like that as well, I imagine.
Yeah, you make me cry thinking about that. Actually, I find it really difficult to write that down, and it's so much wider. If I tell you, she fought with the ER staff to keep him in, you know, and she found the registrar, and she persuaded them to keep this man in because, of course, you know, they don't give beds like that. And she told me, she actually phoned me on the night that it happened, and she was so angry at the injustice. You know, she was, honestly, it was like a force to be reckoned with. And it just said everything to me, you know. And I remember I went to speak to the consultant at Glasgow Royal, and I told him what had happened and how I'd loved this registrar and about Tina and this 6-foot-odd neighbour, you know, cuddling this guy in the trolley. And he said, "Oh, please don't say that, Cam." And he said, "Because, you know, we're not meant to do that." And I said, "Is that not the very thing we're meant to do? Is bring our compassion and our empathy and, you know, just those human, you know, the things that make you a human being to your work." And actually, I mean, it's almost, when you read it, it sounds like it was nothing. It was huge, and she did it all the time. I remember her going to Dalmarnock Primary School. We did quite a lot of work in Dalmarnock at one point, and the community weren't very trusting of the police. I remember her going in full uniform, completely full uniform, body armour, the whole 9 yards. Stuart will hate this because he was our boss at one time. And she sat down and she proceeded to take every single item of clothing off. So she took off her belt, and then she took off her body armour, and then she took off all of her clothing, hysterical. And all she had her normal clothes on. She had a pair of jeans and a t-shirt to show that she was just like everybody else. It was only a uniform. And honestly, I mean, she was just, you couldn't contain her. I mean, she was a force of nature.
Stuart, I know that there are some stories you can tell and there's some stories that you can't, and I'm respectful of that. But as Karyn mentioned, you worked closely with her. Obviously, a very compassionate person. Was she slightly maverick in her approach?
Maverick in the respect that it was outside of the lines of what we were told to do, but not maverick in the way that it was what we should do. That was the big thing. You could always trust Tina that, well, when she left the muster at the start of the day, you just didn't know what she was going to be doing, but you always trusted Tina would do good in the world when she was out there. There was no bad bone in her body, and as Karyn was saying, her fairness and justice was everything that she was about. And if she saw that, then she damn well went and dealt with it. She didn't go drive past anybody that needed help, that's for sure. And that transferred perfectly back over into our work. It was the exact same. And we talked, I know somebody wrote in there, "Would you mess with Tina?" which was quite funny. It was actually my job to mess with her later on as well, because she needed somebody to fight with, I think, a wee bit to get that regulation so she could then go back out and fight the world. But I've not heard a bad thing ever said about it. And that even comes down to the part where even amongst the people she loved and did this kind of work, she wasn't shy in calling you out at any point. If you thought that if she thought that you weren't doing the best, or if she was having a heart-to-heart with somebody and she thought, "No, you're not giving me the full bit here," she would call you out in it and call you for it. So 1 minute she'd be loving, but she'd be loving in the way that she would call you out because she knew that was going to be the best thing for you to then move you on. And it was always with the love she did all of that.
And Jade, with your experience with Tina, could she be in sort of telling off mode from time to time if she felt you weren't perhaps heading in the right direction, or you were doing something that she didn't necessarily agree with?
No, I mean, I would call it, well, we used to have like quite a few talks and stuff like that in the car when we were driving from, like, you know, to go and do talks and things. And I mean, the thing that I would always say about her is that she liked a good debate. So, you know, we would talk about social work and she would go on about like how, you know, whatever it is that she would say. And what you call it, she wouldn't force her opinion on you, right? So she would like let you choose what you wanted to think about it. So, but she just liked a good debate about it. So if she had said something about social work or whatever, or being a professional, you would tell her something back, and then she would say something back. But she wasn't like in the way of like, you need to believe what I believe, but she just liked to influence, like, you know, that to show you what is a good life. And you know what I mean? Like she did, so when we did talks and stuff like that as well, she would always give me something to do. She would always make sure that I was busy. She would always make sure that, you know, and then after the talks and things, because obviously it was quite, sometimes, you know, you felt that you could share too much, and she would like help you to reflect. So she would help you to think about what you had shared, and like if the next time you would do the same. So she was always like making sure that, you know, like what you're sharing is what you want to share, not what you feel you have to share. Do you know what I mean?
I do. Yeah, I do. Karyn, even though you were on mute, I saw you laugh heartily when Jade said the word she liked a good debate. I take it you agree with that.
Oh yeah, she gave me a row loads of times. I mean, she would hold me to account. I mean, she was terrible. I mean, she was a mistress of the drive-by feedback. She would say, "That's crack, Karyn," you know, and you would think you were doing really well, and she would just, but you know, I mean, she would just say, you know, she would never cut me to size, but do you know what I mean? She would bring you back to your values. You said you'd do this. You need to then try and, you know, put it into action, and that's what she was really good at. I was just thinking, you know, grief's such a terrible emotion, isn't it? Because it's not just the person you've lost and a family are on here and their grief will have been terrible, but it's how much you miss her yourself. You know, so it's a selfish because it's about how much you still want her to be around. But I mean, it's fascinating looking at the chat. The legacy is huge. I don't know how many people, you know, I mean, if any of our legacies was as big as this, you'd be even slightly as big as this, you'd be quite proud.
But she'd be mortified at this, wouldn't she now? I mean,
she would be torturing you right now. She'd be phoning you up, giving you the drive-by feedback, threatening you, you know, she would have hated this, which is why you should do all the more.
We have a lovely letter from her family, which I would like to read out in just a moment. Stuart, with regard to the organisation ReAttachment, for those who aren't aware of what the organisation was, could you just tell me a little bit about ReAttachment and your role and Tina's role within the organisation?
I don't actually know too much about the start of it because Tina was there doing it when she started roping us all in. And I say roping in, she just got us to a meeting and spoke to us, and we all fell in love with the idea. And then Tina, and then as she went about everywhere, she just, one person come up and speak. As we spoke about my wee group here, that she kind of saw through people, but she also knew exactly who got it. And if you got it, you then became part of our team. ReAttachment then grew as part of the resilience. It had real potential to then join with the other groups that were driving this forward. Unfortunately, at this time, she can't be replaced in ReAttachment for us to take it forward. There's just not that person there that has the same abilities as she has. Her legacy is with all these different people that she's affected to take it on. And unfortunately, we don't have the strength and the ability to match Tina in what she actually did.
And it's amazing, isn't it? Because for all the work that she did and how impactful she was, she didn't share a lot of that information with her family.
No,
did she?
No, not at all. She
But
didn't share information about the police either. She never told them about that, and I'm sure she didn't talk to them much about nursing when she was a nurse. What happened was that the family was her priority in life. Then different things then filtered once everybody was asleep. So talking to the team, that it was often that Tina didn't start work till 11 o'clock at night. So then everybody had to engage with her at that time of night, at Tina time. You know, I'm working now, you will engage with me. So we all get tied into that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But you would never say no, you know, not because we were scared, but because there was that, yeah, Tina, we'll follow you anywhere. That was how it felt. And there was that whole bit of, well, my family have a life to go on with, and I'm part of that. It was almost like that was not escapism as such, but it brought her the strength, knowing that she had her children, and then she went and used that strength to help everybody else, which is a pretty amazing thing to do.
And Jade, sorry, were you wanting to say something? Come in. Yeah, please do.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to quickly say that so even though she would have hated this, but I feel like she would have liked the fact that, you know, we're sharing the relationships that she had with people, because she wants people to learn from that. She wants people to learn about how to have relationships with people that have trauma. So I feel like that she would have appreciated that, you know, that we're sharing all the good work that she did and how we can carry that on. And then I was just going to say as well, that even though like her family didn't know anything about her work, like she used to talk about her family all the time to me, and she used to tell me all the time, like she was so like proud. She honestly, see, when she talked about our family, our face used to light up every single time. And I knew that's why she was doing all this, was because of her family. She was doing it for them. You know, she couldn't understand. She used to tell me this all the time. She said, you know, I just can't understand why people with trauma are not loved the way that I love my children, the way that I love my family. And I think that that's why, you know, she was such a caring person, because she cared about people more than she cared about herself. Do you know what I mean? And she just adored her family, and she just wanted the life for people like me, or, you know, people with trauma, to have the life that her children had. You know what I mean? Like she wanted that for everybody. And I think that, see how if she could have took on every child that had trauma, I think she would have. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's a really nice point to bring the letter in now, Jade. And we know that members of Tina's family are with us tonight, and we're honoured that Jamie, her son, Dion, Jamie's wife, is with us. Lisa is with us, and Robbie, Lisa, her daughter, and Robbie, her fiance, is with us, and Christina and Lisa, are with us tonight. So bear with me while I just read this letter from her family, and just to demonstrate, actually, you talked about, Jade, so eloquently there about how much she loved her family, and I think this letter will absolutely demonstrate how much she was loved by her family. Tina Hendry was, and still is, a warrior of a woman. She was fierce, strong, loyal, caring, reliable, humble, and dedicated. But we simply knew her as Mom, and what a mom she was. Tina was all the things a mum should be, and so much more. You will all be so surprised to know that she was quick to tell us when we were wrong, or simply being a FUD. Tina was caring beyond belief. Just as she was finished caring for me and my sister Lisa, she jumped straight into caring for Christina and wee Lisa. A selfless act that speaks volumes as to the kind person Tina was. Her whole life, Tina put others ahead of herself throughout her life as a nurse, police officer, kinship carer, and ACEs advocate. A glowing personality trait that shone so brightly even throughout her tough cancer treatment. My sister Lisa and her fiance Robbie have taken on caring for the girls as kinship carers, along with the support of my wife Dion and I. And we hope we are continuing to make her proud every step of the way, keeping her values and wise words at the centre of all we do. Tina will be looking down on all of this, and she will be mortified all the fuss is happening in her name. When I think of all the things she did for everyone in our family and the time she spent on us, it is outstanding to hear the impact she had in her professional life and her contribution to the ACES movement in Scotland. How did she fit it all in? It is truly humbling and inspiring to have spoken to some of you and read various posts and articles about my mom and to hear all the amazing things she was involved in. I say it's outstanding because she rarely spoke about it, other than the odd bit here and there. She wasn't one for bragging. You'd usually only get from her, yeah, work was fine, the conference was good, things like that. We didn't truly know of her impact until my wife Dion began training as a primary school teacher, and Tina seemed to be an unknown claim to educational fame. We're all so proud of what she's contributed, not only to the movement as a whole, but to all of us as people. She loved us unconditionally. If you don't believe me, you should see the picture of Lisa with the short red hair. And none of us would be what we are today without her influence. I know she loved her work, even carrying on as much as she could when she became poorly. Her loss is felt by all of us and will be felt for a long time to come. But I know all those in the Scottish ACES community and beyond will continue to raise awareness to keep up the fight for Tina. A wonderful letter, and absolutely heartfelt. Karyn, I was going to come to you in just a moment, but I know you're just off camera for a second, and understandably so.
Sorry, no, my battery was running dead. Sorry.
Oh right, okay, that's fine. Sorry, I thought I just needed to give you a second, but because it was a very heartfelt letter that Jamie asked us to read on behalf of the family, and I think just demonstrates perfectly the love that the family had for Tina. I think it's also very important, isn't it, in this conversation, not to forget the impact that Tina had on the grassroots movement for ACES in Scotland.
Oh yeah, she was an infection in the best way. I mean, she, just driving an agenda, and I mean, we always used to talk about, how challenging it is when you're taking a nugget of an idea and then trying to get it into action. James and Jade will know this. I often use the phrase "proceed until apprehended" as a sort of, you just keep going. Tina embodied that. I mean, she was unbelievable. She just was, she was unstoppable, and she did. I mean, she went out and she gathered these people around her. So, I mean, loads of the head teachers that I know really embraced it, tried to make their schools trauma aware and trauma informed. And you could feel it when they went into it. And that was part of her legacy. But it's fair to say there were people who didn't see it. And she was pretty unforgiving about that. I shouldn't really say this, but James Dockett is just texting me. She used to say, he's a fud. That was it's just to say, terrible, so Scottish. But she was like, she would present people with all the evidence, and she would, sell it with such passion. And then she would say that she would wait and then just wait for the action. What she really disliked was people knowing all the evidence and then doing nothing about it. She couldn't understand that. She couldn't understand was, how do you know this and then you're still doing nothing? So it was, it was a huge journey. And I mean, it's massive. I mean, it's massive. I mean, for all the things, and I criticise Scotland for not moving quick enough. But can I tell you, this is the one thing about our understanding of trauma, what to do about it, how to manage it, how to mitigate it, how to, support people. That is the one thing that is organic and it's still growing. The very fact that we've got hubs and we've got all these people who are trying to do, who are trying to put it in systems like mine, which is a criminal justice system, which is probably the most challenging, I think is testament to her, and people's legacy sometimes goes on for so much longer, and Tina's definitely will. And I think the letter from her family, I think, said everything.
Yeah.
Work was okay.
Yeah, yeah. I can see some messages coming in saying warrior is the description and how apt. Karyn, what do you think she would think of where Scotland is now in terms of being ACE aware?
She'd say it's not good enough. She'd say it's not good enough.
All right. I was going to say,
she would say, oh no, she'd be saying, dry your eyes and get on with this. That's what she'd be saying. She'd be saying, too many of you are talking about this and not doing enough. And you're not calling out those who are not doing stuff. So, I've been ranting about young people in prison recently, and I know that had she been here, she'd have been right beside me, fighting to it. In fact, she'd be taking the lead and I'd have to be hauling her back. But, she would be calling us out, and she'd be saying, try harder. You know what the task is, so up your game. And that's, sometimes you need everybody needed a bit of Tina in their lives.
I mean, we're talking, and rightly so, in glowing terms about Tina, but to be that sort of strong character that she clearly was, she wasn't afraid to upset the apple cart, I imagine, even at senior levels.
Oh no! Oh, she absolutely no. I mean, she had such a strong moral compass about what was right, and she couldn't. I think Stuart mentioned that she could not bear unfairness. That was the thing that really got to her. And so she would speak truth to power. That's actually quite an unusual thing, because, Tina was a cop, she wasn't a sergeant, she didn't have that position, but she would have called you out. And that was a massive strength. I think it must have stressed her out. I wonder whether her family would have said, because she took on so much. And I don't think anybody can take on quite as much and not feel the stress and there was a huge amount that she took on herself and riding on it. And I know a wee bit of that, nothing like what she was doing. And I think, the stress and the toll probably was there. I don't know how she decompressed.
Well, I think that, ever since Tina started all this, I feel like she created this culture of, trauma doesn't end at 9 o'clock. No, trauma doesn't end at 5 o'clock and starts at 9 p.m. on a Monday to Friday. I think she created this culture of people need to start being a bit more flexible and open when thinking about people with trauma, and I think that that's what she created. And because the more that I've done stuff, the more I'm starting to see the change. And there's no doubt about it, she'd probably be scoring everybody right now, this minute, telling you right, come on, get on with it. But she definitely would be saying, that it is changing, because that's what she used to always say. She always used to say, she can see the change, but there needs to be more. There needs to be more change, but she can see the change.
Stuart, I saw a message from you earlier today saying that in preparation for tonight's programme, you'd been pulling people together. There was lots of memories. There was some emotion. There was some sadness, but there was lots of laughs as well, as you were, remembering some of the antics, if you like. What's been the response? You've brought people together who've maybe not been together for a year. What's been the reaction? And what, in terms of laughs and antics, what sort of memories has it brought back for you and the team over the past couple of days?
Well, I think to start with, it's the amount of people that have been called a fud. To be fair, and I wasn't wanting to say that earlier, but you called out on it. But because we were a team, that's what she called you, and then she gave you a hug. And even at the nicest time she did it. One of the big memories was when the IT didn't work at one of the conferences, and she started a sing-song of Jeannie McCall. Whenever was a brave thing to do, to stand up and do it, and things like that. But it was mostly about her generosity, and we talked to her about how she de-stressed, and really she de-stressed through her children's activities. So the cross country, the running, and the dancing was very big in her life, and that was our Saturdays. And she was so proud of the girls and what they could do. And the other thing we spoke about was we tried to install some Tina time, which was when Tina actually did some self-care. And we spoke about the tooth, and we spoke about the state of her car and our specs being double pound specs out of Poundland and stuck together with sellotape. I used to have a spare pair here with me so she could borrow them when she broke them, as she often did. And just that whole part of love about how, as Tina always said, it's not about her. It's not about her, it's about the message. And that's what she invoked in all of us, that message that it's not about you and who you are. And that's how she lived. She lived by example in that it's not about Tina. It's about that message that she's getting out in there. It just so happens that she's the vehicle for this delivery. And I think she felt very, very much so that is, if it sat on her shoulders, by God, she was going to give it 100%. And if she was giving it 100%, you were as well. And if you weren't, she was going to call you out and get you doing some stuff to go and do it. And that was how she created a most amazing team that went presented. And it's been really lovely catching up with people and getting their stories of the different things that happened along the way. And as we said, some we can't speak of because they're too funny. But it's been absolutely amazing in this to be able to sit here and actually talk about it and be part of it. Yeah.
It's the conversation that we're having, it strikes me that Tina had these wonderful leadership skills that any organization, any commercial organization would have been proud to have her as a boss, as a leader. Almost firm but fair. Would that be a fair analysis?
I don't even think it was as little as firm. I think she's stronger than firm. One of the reasons she didn't progress in the police, because that would have taken her on another journey that actually would have taken her away from frontline and helping people. If you progress, you become more indoors. And as ReAttachment actually progressed and we spoke about it, I kind of went into the back room because Tina didn't want to be sitting doing administration. She didn't want to be sitting doing books. She didn't want to be organising. She wanted to actually be out there talking to people where she knew she would have the best influence. And that is absolute common sense. There's no point in her sitting trying to organise other people when she's the best in Scotland at doing what she did. Mm-hmm. And that's the way we all did, and we just followed in her coattails.
Can I just, it's really interesting you talk about leadership. I think we look for leadership in all the wrong places. You look at the politicians and the chief execs, etc. And Tina was the best type of leader. She just created the movement. And actually, what she did was she sort of sparked other people to be leaders as well. And I see loads of them on the call, so Beth Ann and Jade and Anne-Marie and loads of other people are on this call. So she gave them a bit of chutzpah to go out and change other things. And isn't that the most organic, wonderful type of leadership? So perhaps we all need to look at for leadership in different places, because she was absolutely a leader.
Yeah. But she didn't see herself as a leader. So even though we were all calling her a leader and all that, she used to tell me all the time, she's like, I'm not a leader. She's like, I'm just creating the change. That's what she used to say. She used to say, I'm just creating the change. I'm just showing you the path to make it different. And I just thought that was amazing. Like, she didn't see herself as a leader because she just thought as well, this is what you're meant to be doing. That's what she used to always tell me.
But that's leadership, isn't it?
Yeah. Aye.
Is that another thing? Seeing, got a vision of what Scotland should look like, and then being unrelenting and a drive to get there.
Mm-hmm.
We're heading towards the end of our wonderful 60 minutes together. I would just like to go around you all one last time, and just with maybe one outstanding memory or a wee story or just something to sum up everything that we've discussed about Tina in the past 60 minutes. So Stuart, if I could come to you first. I'm sorry, and I'm throwing you a question that you may not have prepped for, so you may be thinking, all right, okay, think on your feet a little bit, but I'm sure there's lots of stories. So just one last anecdote or story from you, Stuart.
I think it goes back to one of the most amazing things I've seen, and it was that very first day with Jamie Redford, and just the way that she commanded the room and surprised, but was always in control of everything. And then for me, it's that blue dress and standing afterwards with her hair and with Jamie Redford there, who we're all thinking, well, wow, there's Jamie Redford. And actually we're thinking, wow, there's Tina Hendry. Karyn, for you, just one poignant memory.
Do you know something? It's the small things. I remember, I think having felt really stressed, and we were at an event, and she just saw it in me. It was an odd thing, and she just came up and gave me a hug. And I'll never forget the compassion behind it, you know. And she never said anything, but just saw it, and it will stay with me always.
And Jade, final word to you, please.
So I would probably say that I'd probably say that one of the good memories that I have is the last memory that I have with her, when me and Beth Ann, they did like a duet kind of presentation to I think it was kinship carers, and it was just kind of like a really good day, and we just spent the full day with Tina, and like we got like, you know, she took us to get like a can of juice and all that, and like just, I don't know, just it was kind of like she was morphing us into like mini Tinas without even realising it. Like that's how I felt at that time. Yeah, so.
I've got to say, it's been a wonderful, inspirational hour. You've painted a wonderful picture of a wonderful woman, and I wonder if she'd be calling me a FUD right now. I don't know, but amazing. Yeah, she probably would. I know. There we go. I get that impression. But I've got to say, Jade, Karyn, and Stuart, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your memories of Tina tonight. Thank you very, very much indeed. We continue the ACE Aware Nation conversation next week, actually, the 24th of February, where we look at international perceptions of ACEs, where we'll be joined by leaders from ACEs groups in Canada and the Netherlands, so joined by leaders of those two movements. And that's it for tonight. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. Thank you for your contributions on the chat and on Twitter, and have a wonderful, peaceful weekend when it arrives. From me, Gary Robinson, and our guests, a very good night.